And again, wait a minute.
Do you just want to share the work plan?
Oh, I got it.
There you go.
Yay.
Yay. All right. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. Bob, are we ready?
Yes, probably.
Yes, you're live on HCAM TV.
Great. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Zoning Advisory Committee meeting of Monday, September 21st. It has been approximately 6 months since we met. I had to go looking through videos on HCAM on YouTube to see the last time we met. And it was March 2nd. By the way, John, do you know if there were any minutes produced for March 2nd? Because I didn't find any drafts.
There probably was, and I didn't even think of that.
That's okay.
I will have them for the next meeting.
Yeah, let's get them out for everybody to review and have for the next meeting. But we did find minutes, which I believe were approved for the February 3rd meeting, which was the previous meeting to the March 2nd. So, okay.
So I actually have
to welcome Curtis Smithson to our group here. Hi, Curtis.
Hello.
No. Could you just introduce yourself and let us know, where you're from, how long have you been here and stuff, and we can go around the room real quickly for everybody else to introduce themselves as well.
Okay, I moved here in June of 2017 from the Chicago area. Followed my wife here for her position. I moved here from Chicago, previously was in Connecticut, before that in Ann Arbor, Michigan, then was in Oklahoma City and Shreveport, Louisiana, and grew up in Starkville, Mississippi. Got my civil engineering degree at Mississippi State University, have been doing land development consulting for, I think it's 32 years now. Worked on everything from $18 million worth of work at the new GM Cadillac plant in Lansing, Michigan, to just sent some plans out for a stormwater detention system for a single family home in Libertyville, Illinois. So kind of one end to the other. I'm used to being on the other side of the table, so this should be interesting to kind of see what goes on this side. I'm in most engineers' eyes becoming the bad guy now, so hopefully it's going to work out okay.
It'll be great to have your expertise on the board and on this committee and other things in town as well, I'm sure. I had a feeling you weren't from Chicago originally.
No.
So I am approximately 20-year resident of Hopkinton, but I'm originally from Wisconsin. And my career has been consulting on and project management in the biotech industry for 30 years. So I have absolutely no expertise in stormwater management other than reviewing things at the planning board. So I've been on planning board for 3 years now and 3 years, somewhere in there. And zoning advisory committee for about 3 or 4 years, somewhere in there. Ted, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Ted Barker-Hook. I've lived in Hopkinton for 23-ish years. I'm a high school history and economics teacher. I also have no expertise in stormwater management, but I did for a little while teach an elective on the history of cities and urbanization, which dabbled in urban planning. And then a little piece of that was the development of the suburbs. So wow. I also serve on the Conservation Commission. This is, I think, my 6th year on ZAC. And I've been on CONCOM, I believe, for about 3 years at this point.
Okay, so I'm going to see you October 6th. So
okay.
I'm trying to build a barn.
Well, hopefully you're not getting in the way of the wetlands.
No, I think I'm all conforming. So
okay, wonderful.
Sundar?
Hi, my name is Sundar Sivaraman. Curtis, I think you and I met briefly during the planning board meeting. So I'm also serving on the planning board in the town of Hopkinton. Okay. I'm a 14-year-old resident of Hopkinton, originally from India. So been in the US for about 23 years at this point. My background is technology. I've been doing a bunch of engineering roles. I now dabble in product management and healthcare in the healthcare sector. And welcome, Curtis, to the Zach.
Okay, thanks.
Madhu? I think you have to take yourself off mute.
Yes, that's why I was like, let me unmute myself before I start jabbering on mute.
That's supposed to be the line of 2020. Please unmute yourself.
Yes.
Or you're on mute or something like that.
Yes. Hi, my name is Madhumita Chandrasekhar. I go by Madhu because 20 letters in the names and stuff. I've been in Hopkinton for the past 8 years now. Time flies. In Zach, I've been for the past 2.5, 3 years. And my background is technology. I'm a software engineer. I'm learning on the job. Zach the board members have been extremely helpful, very patient, explaining rules and everything. So it's such a welcoming committee. So welcome to Zach, and we hope to make it as welcoming as it was for me.
Ron?
Hello there. My name's Ron Foisey. I've been in Hopkinton for 31 years, and I am the Chamber of Commerce representative for Zach. This is my third iteration on Zach, and I'm on the board of directors for the chamber as well as being the secretary.
And Ria?
Hi there. So nice to see everybody. It's been a long, long time. I'm a Metro West girl. Welcome, Curtis, to our gang here. I've been in Hopkinton since 2004. I was in Southborough for 18 years before then, so our next door neighbor. I'm a commercial real estate broker, have my own business for 33 years. I focused on retail shopping centers, leasing and development. I have been involved with helping projects from the ground up in multiple towns. I've been on the design review board for 12 years. This is my second season on the ZBA, and I think it's my 7th year on Zach. I really appreciate all volunteers in this role because you all bring so many good points to every discussion that we have. And I'm always impressed by the balance of our discussions in vetting the process that we've done over all these years.
And right now we are missing John Cuttino. He is a member this year, voting member this year, and we had hoped to join us tonight. I hadn't heard from him that he wasn't able to, but maybe he will be joining us shortly.
John just joined.
I'm here.
Hey, John.
Hey, welcome, John.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had a little trouble logging on. I actually had to go to the town website. My email log on button wasn't working.
Okay. Hi, John. We were just each introducing ourselves so that Curtis will, and also because, you know, we don't always remember a lot of personal details about one another, but also to welcome Curtis. So if you could just give a little bit of background on, your tenure here in Hopkinton and what you do for a living and things like that, that would be great.
Hi, I'm John Cuttino. This will be my 13th year on Zach. I was on planning board for 5 years, board of selectmen for 6. Now I do real estate and repair and flip houses.
Thanks.
Something I'm thinking about, so.
And,
Demand to talk.
and John Gelsich, you want to introduce yourself quick?
I'm John Gelsich. I'm the principal planner for the town. This is going in my second year. In April will be 2 years that I've been here. Before this, I was with a civil engineering firm in Southborough. And then before that, I was kind of all over the place, including New York. Went to school in Virginia, grew up in, went to school in Blacksburg, Virginia, grew up in Connecticut, and now I'm here.
Great.
Let's go Hokies.
Yeah.
Don, everyone else grew a COVID beard. What happened to you?
Yeah. I'll grow it back soon.
So we have one open seat, open at-large voting seat, and Elise has expressed some interest in that. So, because she was just waiting to see how other activities were timing out for her. So hopefully she'll be able to join us, but obviously she couldn't for this one. And let's see, I think that's, make sure before the end of the meeting, we talk about next meetings, because I didn't put that on the agenda per se, but it needs to be there. All right. Okay, so this is officially the first meeting of the new year for Zach. And so every year after town elections and after whatever the cycle is that begins the new town year, we need to elect a new chair and vice chair for this coming year. So John, if you could keep track of this, but I just like ask for nominations for chairperson for.
I'll nominate Mary Larson Marlowe as chair.
I'll second that nomination.
I accept that nomination. Are there any other nominations for chair? Everybody speak at once. Go for it. Okay, I am fine with doing this for another year.
Hey, I did it for 10. You can do more
That's
than
right.
another year.
You sure did. So do we need to do a voice vote, John? Yep. Okay. All right. So all those in favor.
Sorry.
I'm going to have
Roll
to
call
go
vote.
one by one. Roll call. That's how we have to. Oh, do I have to read that thing now? I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah,
The official.
yes, you do.
What do you call
Sorry.
it? There it is. Meeting script. Here we go. I apologize. Now, as a preliminary matter, and you can all see this on your screen too. This is Mary Larson Marlowe, the chair of the Zoning Advisory Committee. So we need to do a roll call of attendance as well, John? Or should I just do the remote meeting part?
Just do the remote meeting part of this
Okay,
point.
thank you. This open meeting of Hopkinton Zoning Advisory Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we are complying with the executive order that suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The executive order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely as long as the public body makes provisions through adequate alternative means to ensure interested members of the public are provided reasonable access to the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. It will further include several public hearings. Well, not in that case, no. For this meeting, the Zoning Advisory Committee is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's web meeting calendar and the board's agenda, identifying how the public may join. And it's also being broadcast on HCAM. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference, all attendees, I would say. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Live on YouTube forever. I think that's it. Is that good? That's the last, the official part, right, John?
For the most part, the rest is more planning board specific.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. And I appreciate you sending that to me. Okay, so now we need to do a roll call regarding the election of Mary Larson Marlowe as chair for this next year. Madhu?
I.
Yes, okay. Curtis?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Sundar?
Sundar, yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Ria?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Mary? Yes. And for vice chair, I would like to,
John Cuttino.
and I
I
second,
second that.
Are
I'd
there,
like to nominate Ted Barker Hook.
thank you. I second.
That's nice of you both. I think I will pass, but thank you very much for thinking of me.
And John, do you accept the nomination?
No, as long as you're chair, I'll be your vice chair.
And are there any other nominations? All right. Hearing none, we'll go through a roll call vote. Mary, yes. Curtis,
Yes.
Madhu,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Sundar,
Sundar, yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Ria,
Yes.
and John.
Yes.
Okay, so we have now got the chair and vice chair for the next year, Mary Larson Marlowe and John Cuttino. Okay. I just wanted to give you a very quick update. I assume most of you have been kind of following what was going on at the town meeting, if not being there in person. All of these zoning articles that we sent forward did proceed on to town meeting from planning board. However, no votes were taken at town meeting on the zoning articles. Therefore, the plan is to resubmit them for the 2021 town meeting whenever that takes place. It should take place in May, but obviously we all don't know exactly what's going to happen between now and then. So this puts us in an interesting situation with zoning articles for 2021. The town warrant generally, I mean, at least in my experience, has had between 4 and 10 different zoning articles on the warrant every year. But to go much farther than that would probably be prohibitive in terms of time that we spend on them. So I'm not sure if we will want to, or a planning board will want to introduce many more than what are there already. I just pulled up on my screen, and hopefully you guys can see it. This is the summary that planning board put together right before the town meeting, just in case we had to discuss any of these. So the ones that went forward were to remove car washes from the downtown business district. I think that will be a fairly quick vote when it goes forward. It probably won't require much discussion. The article numbers are for this 2020 town meeting, and maybe different article numbers.
Yeah, there'll be like 84, 85, 86.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I know. The industrial B district housekeeping, that's a very quick vote again. But keeping in mind, all zoning articles are 2/3 votes, so they all have to be counted on the counters. They can't just be voice vote unless they're unanimous, I think. So wireless communications facilities, this was really just an update to make it consistent with the federal law. Hopefully wouldn't require a lot of discussion on that. The accessory dwelling unit changes. And I'm going to remind you of this one because we had a long-term plan that we were going to introduce some small changes to this. And then this next year, we were going to introduce some additional changes to some of either this bylaw or related bylaws, like duplexes and conversion of residential properties. And that was our plan. So we might want to hold off on any additional changes to those other bylaws until this one is voted on. That's just some food for thought. This I anticipate will require some discussion, hopefully not a huge amount, but some discussion at town meeting. The non-conforming lots, uses, and structures, that was the waiver for the zoning enforcement officer to be able to waive a ZBA review of certain changes. Again, hopefully that's not terribly controversial and won't take a lot of discussion at town meeting. The temporary signs, I could see this taking some discussion at town meeting, but that's the one intended for business business continuation during the Main Street corridor project, and then future uses as well.
Mary,
Of course, yes, go ahead.
I think, but correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe Sundar can, I think that that got expanded from what we did last year. I think we were making it only downtown, and didn't the planning board then expand to say anytime there's construction? Isn't it slightly altered from what we did?
Yeah, I don't remember when we sent it to planning board. Was it already for all construction, or was it only for downtown?
Yeah,
I think expanding.
We
I'm
did
sorry,
discuss, we did discuss that it would be for all areas that are impacted by construction. And, you know, just because it could happen anywhere, and we don't want to show favoritism just to the downtown business people, but, you know, also in the event that this affected another part of the town, it was already in place, so we would have support for those businesses.
Oh, good. Then I congratulate ourselves for being that forward. I didn't think that we thought forward enough, but maybe we did.
Good.
So through the chair. Sorry, go ahead, John.
Go ahead, Sundar.
I was just going to ask, so these articles that were deferred at the ATM 2020 for 2021, what is our responsibility? Do we need to have debates once again? Do we need to make certain decisions, or our
We
recommendations?
don't even need to meet again.
No, I mean, I wasn't sure if by deferring these articles to ATM 2021, was the town meeting saying, go back to the drawing board, or were they saying, this is all good, we will just, as is, create a package out of this and move it to the warrant for ATM 2021? I just wanted some clarity on that.
Yeah, so the legal, that we took no action at town
Yes.
meeting.
Yes.
That was, it basically didn't tie us into either way.
Sure.
We as in, we can recommend to planning board makes the decision. We can recommend to planning board to take them as is, or we can make changes, or we can withdraw. But again, it's planning board's decision. Now,
Yeah.
planning board, my understanding of planning board and their direction to us is that all of them, they would take forward as is, except the solar. They want us to discuss it further and take into account some of the comments that were made during the very long public comment period. So that's my recollection. And John, did you have further comments?
So to Ted's point, the planning board did make an alteration to the temporary signs. Deb added, I forget the language that she added, but there was a small piece of language that she added to the end, and the board accepted that. So it's slightly different, but it doesn't change the nature of the article.
Yeah, and that happens to a lot of our zoning changes, you know, little changes. Go ahead.
Sundar, the only other thing I'd say is, I think that the town's decision when we took no action was, right now, COVID time is not the time to talk about it.
Yes.
There could have been plenty of people that think that they needed changes and plenty that thought they were perfect. We didn't address that in the least at town meeting.
Got it.
Okay. So that's where the final one, the street acceptance, did take place, because that's not a zoning article that per se. So that's where we stand on our articles for 2020 that are now going on to 2021. My understanding from planning board is that everything is fine for the first 6 of them, I think 6. And they would just take it forward as is. And it's only the commercial solar voltaic installation that we should take a look at and review in more detail. Is that, does everyone agree that that was?
Through the chair.
Mhm.
So the question on Article 19, again, I'm seeking clarity here. The town did not vote on the solar overlay district, but this is different, right? Meaning this I'm guessing is outside of the solar overlay district. If if companies want to establish through a special permit a solar farm, is that to guide that process outside, or maybe I'm slightly confused. So we did not vote on the map, but
No.
this, when the planning board said, or ATM said, take a look at Article 19, what were they asking us
Okay,
expressly?
Article 19 is something that we recommended as Zach
Yes.
to the planning board. Obviously, there was a lot of comments on it. It took the current commercial solar voltaic zoning zoning bylaw, and it added the solar overlay map and said that all future solar farms must be on, within the allowed places, allowed lots within that solar overlay map. So essentially that's all that article said was, using that map. So it is the map that we would be reviewing, but also the whole process of what criteria are used, potentially what, that's actually getting into the next agenda item, very much so. But that's the basics. And I'll back up and get comments from everybody on what they heard during the public comment period to see, what we might need to look at further. But I'd also like to discuss the timeline for 2021 ATM. John, it's we're going on the assumption that town meeting will be in May.
Yes.
Okay. So that means that Zach needs to vote on and recommend zoning changes to planning board by January. Is it mid-January, end of January? When is
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but it's
Okay.
usually January.
Okay, it's January. Okay, so, and that is, again, because of, having these 6 articles already going forward, that one is probably the most important on our agenda for this year. So I think everybody would probably agree with that, is to look over that solar stuff. There's other things on our list that we started to discuss in the spring that we can bring up, but it's not as critical that they get into the 2021 ATM as this one is. There's obviously a lot of strong feeling on both sides of the issue in town, but I think, the best we can do is try to make it as clear as possible, see if we can improve the solar overlay map, the criteria, and whatever else needs to be changed to make it more appropriate, better for the town. We'll get legal counsel involved, get their input, additional input. So that's what I think is probably the highest priority. Okay?
Yes.
All right. Okay, I'm not going to do that, but I wanted to, okay, let's see. This slide I'm showing now, it's not in color, but it has the solar overlay map that was presented in Article 19. And it is similar, not quite exactly the same as the one we put forward to planning board back in January. So it includes the 495 corridor, which my understanding is not only includes the median and 495, but also the sides. I don't know what you call those. The sides of the highway? I don't know.
The extents of the right of way, I guess.
The shoulder.
Okay, there you go.
Shoulder. I was going to say grassy knolls.
And in addition, there's this part, it's called Mechanic Street. That is that state-owned land, John, or town-owned land?
That's an approved solar array.
Oh, that's that? Okay, got it. This is one that planning board approved last year, sometime or earlier this year. So this is already an approved solar farm. Okay. Harvey is land that is cleared of trees. Is that?
That's the
appropriate?
transfer station,
Of the transfer station. What does that mean?
the recycling place.
Okay, thank you. This is the solar farm that already exists on Main Street, on East Main. And let's see, there's a little built-out solar farm on Hayden Rose Street up the street from me. It's behind a house, basically. And then there's the Lumber Street Alex.
Did we lose Mary? Or is it me?
Yeah, she froze up.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Is she coming back?
I don't know.
Yay!
I
I
think
was
I,
going to say through the chair, but the chair is gone. Maybe we can go through the vice chair.
Talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a
Okay.
subject.
No.
Parades.
No, the vice chair is there. Through the vice chair.
I can finish her thought. That is the solar farm that was put in behind Alexander Road that in many ways started this whole discussion some years ago.
Mhm.
And during the discussions about our solar overlay at town meeting, a couple people mentioned, have you seen Alexander Road? This is the kind of thing we're hoping to have a little more control over.
So through the vice chair, through the chair. Why is the transfer station, the Harvey transfer station shown? Is there a solar array there?
John, I might be able to answer that.
Yeah.
I think Sundar, it's because it is a place that is already cleared. There is no solar array there. But
Okay,
if Harvey decided they wanted to shut down the recycle,
sure.
it's a place where trees have already been cleared. It's
Sure.
it's brownfields, I guess, or it
It's
would-
all brownfield already. Yeah, it's a good way of putting it.
and so we thought that that was a place that makes sense if they chose to switch their operations.
Got it. And that could be done without a special permit from the planning board?
If this plan is approved, I
No,
think
yeah, you're right. You're right. If this map is approved,
I
in
think
that situation-
still everything needs a special permit. I think
Oh,
where
okay,
the plan,
okay.
I
John,
believe
you
so.
can correct me, is
Okay.
none of it is by right. It's all special permit within the overlay district.
Okay, got it. So two
Correct. So-
conditions have to be satisfied. One, it has to be in that blessed solar array area, and then the planning board needs to approve a special permit for anybody to establish a solar farm, right?
Yes, and I
Okay.
like the use of the word blessed. I like that.
You know, what I was thinking that, John, I don't know if this is, if it's already included at the end of West Elm Street, which, you know, where the salt dump is. The state salt dump. Now, I don't know how big an area, you know, when we're talking about the 495 stuff, you know, just to try and expand it to some land again, to Ted's point, that it's already cleared and it's basically, well, once it's got, you know, it's had salt on it now for 30 years, it's probably a brownfield also. That might be something that we could expand it on, just so it doesn't look like we're as restrictive as we are.
Now, is that, and Mary had the map, so I'd have to dig around to find it to bring it up. Is that the one that's connected to 495 or adjacent
No,
to 495?
Yeah, it's adjacent to 495. Yeah, it would have been, it was actually, I when I was on the Board of Selectmen, I was working to try and get that land from the state for higher and better use, saying that we could use it for a fire station or something to that effect.
Is it the one with the barn?
Yeah, it's got some steel buildings in there that they
Let-
store all the salt.
Let me pull up the map because that, I think I know what you're talking about. Let me pull up the map.
You know, going through some of the stuff from town meeting, some of the discussions that some people think we're being too restrictive, that if we can look at some of the places that, to Ted's point, that are already cleared, that could be brown also, and let's just take a look at something like that. Oh, Mary's coming back. Oh, no, that's just that you, John? Oh,
That's
okay.
me, yeah, sharing my screen. So are you talking about this parcel right here?
Yes.
That is part of 495, and that was intentionally removed because there was a bunch of neighbors over here that complained when this, so that's all part of this parcel. That's all part of this 495 parcel. And we just kind of drew a line across here because when this originally was part of the overlay, these neighbors were not happy with it.
But
Thank you.
it's brown, it's.
Welcome
it's-
back, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I think that, I think the solar array would be a better, will look better. Well, actually, well, then again, that's where we might want to have to put a fire station though, anyway, so. If the governor's office comes through, that'll be a good spot for the fire station right off 495, and it's free land. Uh-oh, Mary's texting me.
Oh, no, that was several minutes ago. I made
Oh.
it back.
It just got here. Sorry, my phone just went beep.
That's all right. Evidently, my internet was really bad.
Yeah.
Through the chair, I have another question on this map. So if this is the map that is going to go to ATM 2021 for town's approval, and if the Franklin Road special permit is indeed approved after the appeals process and all that, will this map change? Because will that parcel also need to be shown as shown on this map as a solar array area?
It is there.
It is already there?
Yeah.
No, it isn't right now,
Oh,
but
I thought
um,
this was it right here. Franklin Road is that piece to the east, isn't it?
it was originally on the solar map, and we took it off during the planning board discussions. So John, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but technically, if it's already built out, we don't even have to include it on the map.
Correct. No, it doesn't have to be included on the map. It just wouldn't. So it would be a non-conforming use based on this map, would still be allowed to exist. But once they removed it and it changed uses, unless this map changes, another solar farm wouldn't be able to get built. Or if they don't build the solar farm and they let the permit lapse, then no new solar farm would be able to get permitted there.
Oh, okay.
So I have a question. What is this parcel right here on the east part of the town? What's that?
This is East Main Solar.
And,
That's
is-
when their legacy already.
Where my cursor is right here
okay.
is Franklin.
I mistook this to be Franklin Road for some reason. Okay.
The East Main parcel, Rhea, is essentially Weston Nurseries, just before, if you're driving towards Ashland, just before you get to the shops, you can see
Yep.
it up on the hill.
Oh.
Okay.
Actually, it's before Legacy Farms North. This is Legacy Farms North right here.
Right.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
So Mary,
yes.
I wonder if you might, we touched a little bit on the Liberty Mutual / Franklin Road. I wonder if you might get everybody up to speed on other changes that the planning board made to the map before, between us giving it to planning board and it being taken to town meeting. I wonder if you might get us up to speed on other changes and rationale.
Sure. I'm going to combine that with, just some of the other comments that were made during the public process. And please chime in with anything that you all heard, either during the public comment process or on the street. So planning board discussed adding some town land on Fruit Street. And particularly because a lot of that was cleared already. Do Do you know if there's a, John G, is there a name for that parcel that Fruit Street?
The Fruit Street parcel, it's these up here.
Okay. Town owned, right?
Yep.
It's out by the soccer fields,
Okay.
and past I'm with Hopkinton Little League, so I say with love and sadness, a rundown looking softball field as well. Just past there, there's a huge kind of sandy pit. I don't know if anything's being done with it right now.
Okay. There's also, were some lots along the 495 corridor on the west side of the 495 corridor that are just adjacent to 495 that the owners had expressed an interest in having added to the map. And that was also, there were some people who live in some residential neighborhoods near there that are concerned about clear cutting of trees because of the noise buffering that the trees provide, obviously, for their neighborhood. So that was a consideration that we were asked to keep in mind, noise, traffic noise, especially. There were some owners of parcels near the existing, yes, right down there, Jonathan Road solar farm, who said they had planned on using those for solar farms in the future, and that they wanted those to be added to the map. Ultimately, Planning Board decided not to add any of those additional parcels. And Planning Board decided to remove the approved not yet built that's on Wilson Street solar. It's like, yeah, right around there. And the one on Franklin Road. And was there any other ones that they decided to remove?
So when you were gone, we talked about this piece of the 495 parcel that was removed.
Mm-hmm. And that was more of that wasn't really, shouldn't have been part of it, right?
So that's technically part of this one parcel that's 495, but I had mentioned that neighbors over here complained about this potentially being something, and it's state-owned land with an existing salt barn on it, so
yeah,
it was removed.
Okay. So ultimately, Planning Board decided to remove any of the approved but not yet built for solar farms. And
Mechanic Street is approved but not built.
Yeah, and I don't know why that was left.
Because it was, if I remember correctly, it was basically an already fully disturbed site.
Yeah. And that makes sense.
495.
That makes sense. That was part of the criteria originally, is that, if it's already disturbed land, it's already clear cut. Okay, so the other, some of the other considerations that we were asked to consider was a recommendation around the grade of a site and visibility from nearby roads, neighborhoods, etc. In a sense, to me, that's really about screening again. It's about, from what vantage point should the screening be screening the site? That's, is anybody have a different understanding of what that requirement or what that consideration would be? Sundar, you were there, so did you get anything else?
No, I actually had a question, Madam Chair, because when we talk about visibility from, I guess this means that if this is in my front yard, I can see the solar farm from my front yard. I might have a problem with that. I mean, isn't that what the conversation was really around me? But I don't think we ever considered whether it was from the front of the home or from the side or the back. What if it was it technically in my backyard, not in my front yard, would that be, what kind of guidelines? I wasn't sure. We ended up discussing that. So that's all I'm able to contribute to that.
Okay. Yeah, my impression was that anytime the solar panels are visible from somebody's yard or home, no matter where in their yard or home, second floor, first floor, whatever, they were, they had concern with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Mary?
Yep.
I don't know if it came up in planning board. I've listened to a lot of meetings, and before COVID, I showed up for several. I don't remember talking about grading, so I don't know what you guys talked about. It occurs to me, though, that some of the grading could be water issues as well. I know in conservation, we had a meeting to talk about water issues that have developed on that East Main Street solar array. And we've heard anecdotal evidence from the neighbors on Alexander Road that they've had plenty of water issues since the solar farm went in. So it's possible that if we are to look at grading, it might be consideration of how it would affect water coming down the hills and things like that as well.
And I've got this written down, so it's definitely something we should discuss more, but I was hoping that somebody with a little bit more knowledge of this, how can a zoning bylaw address the stormwater issues? It seems like it's only once a development has been proposed and the planning board is going through that. But how could we possibly address that with zoning itself? I'm just wondering.
Site plan review.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It sounds like more of a site plan review than a zoning issue.
Yeah. It seems like that's standard for site plan review.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I'm, I've still got it written down, and I'm, we still can have the longer list of considerations to discuss further, but it does seem like it's something that would be a planning board issue once the development is really there.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
When something is proposed for solar special permit, they are exempt from site plan review. So the way that this would be, it could be handled is that the aspects of stormwater management that were within the site plan regulations can be transferred over to the bylaw for the solar and kind of snuck in there somehow or tucked away so that it assures the planning board considers that with a special permit. And if it's that all water needs to be treated on site, that could be something, or stormwater is adequately managed to a certain
Could we
level.
change it so that if solar farms do come under site plan review?
Yes.
Because I mean, I think there's a lot of issues with every single one of these. I mean, the stormwater drainage is one aspect. The screening is another aspect, and all of these things, how you have to consider the site. So I mean, I don't know why these aren't under site plan review. Why they?
So just to clarify, they don't have to go through site plan approval, but they do go through site plan review. It's kind of a nuanced thing. Like they don't need to get an actual approval, but the process for reviewing the solar special permit does look at site characteristics and does look at stormwater. Every letter that we have our consulting reviewer prepare for the special permit goes through screening, goes through stormwater, goes through soil quality, goes through I'm blanking on other things now, access, all that kind of stuff that you would go through in site plan review. It's just bundled together with the special permit rather than having a site plan application and a special permit application. But that being said, there's no site plan regulations that go along with special permits. So it does get looked at, but it's slightly different.
So John, if the site plan review comes up with certain observations, and those are inputs to the planning board's special permit process, what outcome comes out of that? I mean, can the planning board say, based on the site plan review observations, certain measures have to be taken? I mean, what could be outcomes from that? I mean, can the special permit be denied based on observations in the site plan review?
Yeah, so if it's seen that I'm trying to think of an example here. If it's seen that during the review process, they notice that stormwater is going to run off onto a neighborhood property and create damage to that property, or just create flooding issues, that's something that would be considered endangering neighbor properties, or I forget what the language is. I don't have the bylaw in front of me, but that stuff is considered, and that was considered with Franklin as well. So they talked about stormwater runoff, and they talked about all that, and they provided a stormwater report, and they provided all that information that was reviewed. They talked about water quality, and we had Board of Health weigh in on the impact to the neighboring wells for this solar field. They talked about access onto Franklin. They talked about snow removal. They talked about utilities that are on site. So all that stuff that's discussed in site plan review was also discussed as part of the solar special permit. It's just not a separate approval that's needed.
So I guess, Madam Chair, by extension, my point is, if this is already baked into the special permit process, is there any value add to we proposing a zoning bylaw change?
It may not have any value added. Because I don't think it would change the authority level of the planning board to be able to reject applications. So that particular change probably would not help.
Mary, if I may?
Mhm.
I may have unhelpfully muddied the waters when I introduced water. Because I think a part of it is sightlines and what you see. And that might be a reason to talk about grade and elevation and those things.
Yeah, but this is brainstorming stage, so none of these things are being crossed off a list. So for our next meeting, I'll be re-presenting all of these things that we had for additional considerations, so that we can delve into each one in more detail. So,
Mary,
Mhm.
I wonder if you could help us out with the following. In the discussions leading up to town meeting, voices that were less enthusiastic about the solar overlay were pointing to something that town council wrote to you guys.
Mhm.
And in my discussion with different members of the planning board, they said town council says this looks fine. Can you fill us in on those differing interpretations of whatever that letter was from town council?
Well, we could absolutely pull the letter up, but I'll just briefly go through the different interpretations. One thing, during our process in ZAC, we got verbal input from town council that said, and we were most concerned about, will putting restrictions such as this in place past the Attorney General, because we've been told in the past, kind of a blanket thing. Yeah, you can't put more restrictions on solar. You just can't do it. And then you researched and found all sorts of these, the instances where towns did have more restrictions.
And in fact, much more restrictive than we're proposing.
And then town council gave us a verbal instruction that on its face, it will probably be fine. And they actually reiterated that in this letter. They said on its face, this probably will be fine. But what they also said is that they didn't get to look at the solar map, the solar overlay map. It's true, they did not before it went from ZAC to planning board, because usually it's planning board that gets the town council input, not ZAC. But nonetheless, so they didn't get the solar overlay map. So once they saw the solar overlay map, they said, this might cause some problems because it's kind of a small amount of the town. It's like, okay, yes, it might, and that's, so that's basically, again, this is my interpretation, and a lot of the other planning board members interpretation was that yes, they are covering their bases because they're saying, yes, this might lead to lawsuits. This might, which is pretty much everything that we do. It could. But they were saying that it's the proportion of the town that's on the solar overlay map that might end up causing a problem down the road. Now, then of course, as you know, Ted, from the research that you did with other towns, some of those have very, very small proportions of their town allowed for solar. So I don't know why that would differ, other than the fact that, yes, somebody could sue them, but nobody has. Maybe that's the case. I cannot read this in its current size.
Madam Chair, if I can speculate on that reason. So
Yeah, go ahead.
So on the map that we've shown, the highest proportion of the land is along 495, not in the town proper, right? Isn't that one of the reasons why there was talk about, oh, there isn't enough, the district isn't large enough, because a lot of this is really around along 495, and then the other parcels are in that regard small. I'm just speculating here.
Yeah, I believe John G has indicated to us in the past that even though it's 495 and it's state-owned land and all that kind of stuff, it's still within our town. And therefore, we
Okay.
still have zoning, we have the authority to put zoning restrictions and so on it.
Can I add something to this? It's quite possible too that there's a good percentage of our total land area that is dedicated to state park or natural conservation area, more so than a lot of other towns. And so as a result of that, those don't make any sense for a solar farm. And, I'm sure like the town of Western or Wellesley has the same kind of situation where a good chunk of their town is not available for any kind of development.
That's a good point.
That's a good point, yeah.
The flip side to that, though, I think, is those parts of the town that are available for development, that means we are giving an even bigger percentage of the town for availability, right? Take away the parkland and now look at the colored in part of the map and what percent of the town is that. It makes the percentage even bigger.
Okay.
That's true. Okay, so the final paragraph, except where necessary. Okay, so you all know the line that's that the state law has MGL 40A3 whatever. Towns may not prohibit or unreasonably regulate the installation of solar energy systems. That's the thing we've been dealing with the whole time, is that we not unreasonably regulate. So however that can be interpreted. We believe that the Attorney General's office, this is in the final paragraph, which typically examines only whether a new bylaw amendment is invalid on its face, without considering evidence of the practical impact of the amendment. We think that it is likely that the proposed amendment, if adopted, will be approved and allowed to go into effect, but with the caution that the town cannot apply the provisions of this amendment in a way that contravenes Section 3, which was the part above about not being unreasonable. The board may want to consider whether there is another way to apply these provisions. That is the extent of the statement from a town council that people were arguing one side or the other for. So as you can see, it can be interpreted two different ways very easily. And yes, it is cautionary, but it is not saying, yeah, this is definitely a no-go. Okay.
No, in fact, I think it leans in the other direction. This is a probable go, but we want to give you a heads up.
Right. That's the way I took it. But of course, depending on who's reading it and how they're looking at it, they definitely can see the other side of it. However, I think it's reasonable to for us to get some input from town council when we have some additional changes to the map that we might make prior to sending it on to planning board in January. Can I share my screen again? Is that?
Yep.
Okay. We'll see if this works. Okay, good.
You're gonna make everything crash again.
I hope not. The problem came when I moved your faces, because your faces were off to the right and okay. And I have this wonderful map that I found on our website. You see it?
Ah, yeah, yes, yes.
This is the land use map. Now, it is out of date because it's from 2014. As you can see, all this green stuff right here is Legacy Farms, which is now not agricultural, but residential. I don't know if it would fall into medium density or multifamily residential, but nonetheless, it's a lot of that. There's also some open space in there. But this, I thought, could be useful to us.
Yes.
And if there's an update to it anywhere, I don't know, John, if there's ever been an update to this, or if it's possible to do.
There's not, but it's definitely something we can look into about updating.
Yeah. So this, the reason this is interesting is because so much of what we're discussing, both here and at the planning board about the solar overlay, was utilizing land that was already right here. It says the kind of bright green is
Right.
unvegetated land. So this is that sand pit we were talking about off Fruit Street. It's town-owned land, so unvegetated. This is unvegetated here. I don't know if that's that Mechanic Street or if that's someplace else. Nonetheless, there's that. Those are some indications of land that is not doesn't have a lot of trees that would have to be cut
Okay.
down, for instance. So I don't know what else. And then recreation, institutional, no. There's, really our town is very, very heavily wooded where there aren't buildings, which
is why people like to move here.
That's right. That's what's nice about it.
Why I'm here.
We also have large water bodies too, which prevent us from doing this as well.
This
So
is
I
true.
mean, if anyone did the calculation on this, they would see there wasn't a lot of choices to
Right.
do solar farms that are not conservation and open land, and water. So
Now, if this map were to be done again, I don't know if conservation and open land includes actual open land that has been designated as conservation land, like to halt and things like that, or if, for instance, all of this area here, that's not all the park, is it? Because there's,
Yeah, if that map was redone, that would be preserved open space and
Versus-
undeveloped land.
right.
Two
So
separate
we
categories.
don't have any indication of what the undeveloped land is that hasn't been designated as conservation land. And that's what would be very helpful to see. I think for a lot of different uses, not just this use. So
I'm just curious, why are things like Hopkinton State Park not shown in a special? Are they shown in a special color?
I
No.
don't know.
Okay.
No, nobody knows who did this map originally, what their criteria was. So it just happens to be there. So North Mill Street, isn't this like where the YMCA is and things like that? Some of that over here? Have I got that right? Or is it on Clinton
I
Street?
think the YMCA is further to the right. There's a little bit of aqua to your right,
Oh, here.
There, I think that's the YMCA.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, because it says recreation. Yeah, that would make sense. And then this would be, what do you call?
I
The
think that's the
laborers
laborers
training?
training
Laborers
place,
training
yeah.
plan. Yeah.
Would be nice if we can overlay Google Maps on top of this and just look up what those places are.
Mhm. So anyhow, so you received all of this in your email, so you can look at it. But it's also available. I had to dig around a little bit on the Google Drive and the town, but I found a lot of interesting stuff. So there was also another one that I didn't email that was a map of wildlife resources and the water protection overlay districts that, again, might be useful to look at. There were some codes on the water overlay resource district that I didn't quite understand, so we would need probably some interpretation of that.
I think
Okay.
you can pull all that up on the GIS site also.
Yeah. Yep.
I know I had to put an exhibit together for my Conservation Commission presentation.
There you go.
It showed the wildlife, showed the endangered wildlife districts, and
That's
was able
great.
to pull that up and print it out.
If you do a Google search of Hopkinton GIS mapping, I think it gets you there pretty quickly. It might
Yeah.
be more efficient than trying to go through the town's website.
That's great. Okay, I didn't realize that that was publicly available. That's terrific.
I use it for pretty much every Conservation Commission meeting. I pull up a window, whether it's in person or Zoom, like for the last months, I pull up a window on my computer with the GIS map.
Amazing what I learned.
So
Mary-
through the chair,
Yes.
when you showed the letter previously,
Mhm.
it had three terms: public safety, health, and welfare, or something like that. I think those could be some things that you could justify why someplace wasn't going to be a solar array, right? So I was just curious if those are opportunities for us to use. There was a broad welfare word in that, so I was just curious if we could say this doesn't qualify because I don't know what welfare meant in that situation, but is that open to interpretation as well-being and health, just recreational? I'm not sure
Actually,
exactly where I'm going with this.
That's
Yeah,
the word I zoomed in on two of those three is welfare. And what does that mean?
Right.
The Attorney General, what does it mean to a lawyer?
Right.
What does it mean in the Constitution? I mean, it's in our Constitution, right? The
Right.
public welfare. I don't know for sure what the lawyers and the attorneys general say that means.
Right, but Ted,
It's a thing to find
the
out.
fact is that they injected that term there regardless. They definitely wanted somebody to use it. We can.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea to consider that in our criteria for what we include in solar farm availability, you know. So that's not a bad thought. We haven't been able to utilize it in making decisions at the planning board level because of some fairly stringent interpretations on the legal side. But using it as criteria is kind of a different level. So that might be something, you know, obviously need to check that out more thoroughly with both John and with legal counsel. Okay, so the other thing that we were getting pushback on in terms of having a map at all was very simply private property rights. There are people in this town who have lots of land who did not plan to develop it for housing or some other purpose like that because they realize that the lot of land is not suitable for that. Either, you know, I don't know if it's wetlands, if it's access, if I don't know what, or that they feel like solar is a better option than housing for the town from the growth standpoint. But they were at least I think of 3 or 4 people who came forward who said, you know, we own this land. We were planning to someday develop it for solar. And this was going to be, you know, an investment opportunity for us to, you know, one person said, put my kids through college and things like that. So it really is about the rights of the private property owners and what they can do with their land. So that's the other pushback that we got. And I think, you know, all of us realize that it is because of existing solar farms that have not been screened in some cases adequately, so that there are neighbors and other, other citizens walking by, driving by that can see these solar farms pretty clearly. And that has been driving a great deal of concern, that this is lowering property values, destroying the beautiful environment and the trails and the forested land in this town. In many cases, driving, basically that people, came here for that reason, and they don't want to see it destroyed. They don't want to see it lessened. So that is the other side of things that we heard a lot of in various public hearings. And did anyone have anything to add on what they heard from people in town?
I would just like to echo, Mary, what you said in terms of property rights, and that, this is in there. If you're a property owner and the zoning changes, it's kind of like taking a portion of the value of their land without any compensation.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly right. I mean, I always try to think about things from the standpoint of what if somebody were trying to say what I should do on my own homeland, the place where my house is, if somebody comes in and starts legislating exactly what I can do and what I can't do, so.
But the only thing I can think of as an argument on this, Mary, is that most of this land that are being considered for commercial solar farms is really, it's residential or agricultural land. And the transmission of solar power is a business. And by fact of it being a business, it should be in a commercial area. And that's where this transition issue really becomes a problem, because you're putting these things in a place where other residences are, affected by them negatively. So the fact that it's not in a commercial area is really the only argument.
Mm-hmm.
A commercial zone.
Yeah, and once this overlay map is put into place, I guess the only remedy for someone who decided they wanted to do that would be to petition for a change to the map in the zone as a zoning amendment before they could go forward.
Yeah.
I mean, there'd still be a pathway to get to that, and it would just have a few more steps to it.
And I have also heard it said that it would be an almost impossible change to a zoning map, because to get them to, to get town meeting 2/3 vote to approve in addition to the zoning map for solar would be a very high hurdle to reach. So that's just.
Unless there was a need that was proven at the time that the application came in. So let's say for some reason in the future, our town has to become more self-sufficient in their energy, then that would be a reason to change the map, because there would be a dire need for it.
Okay. But
I know, Curtis, you're nodding your head. Curtis is nodding his head. He's like, I don't know about that, but I mean, we think of these zoning laws, they go on forever. I mean, it takes a while for us to change these things. So
yeah, well, it would be kind of similar to saying I want to put a Walmart at Pleasant and Main Street.
that's right.
There are hurdles you have to go through, but it's not impossible.
Yeah.
Right, but Madam Chair, what if I, in the example that you gave, if I own a big parcel of land and I do start clear cutting trees right now and clear my land in a month, does that influence how this map evolves? Then I have a land which is now clean and clear, and I might now say, oh, this should be part of the solar overlay, right?
John,
Most places you'd have to go through conservation to be able to do that, wouldn't you?
Oh, really? Oh, even on my own property, to clear cut trees on my property?
I don't know.
From what I understand, if it's in a 100-foot wetland buffer anywhere, any changes have to go through conservation. I guess Ted would be.
Maybe. My disclaimer is always I'm a high school history teacher first. But what I can tell you is, yes, if there's anything that is anything that's occurring within 100 feet of a wetland or bordered vegetated wetland, then Conservation Commission has to weigh in to give approval. There are some developments that were put in. There's different, the Hopkinton standard is 100 feet. I think the state standard is 50. There's some things that were started that then we have to hold. We can't impose the 100 because that came in later. Every time we have a hearing where that kind of thing pops up, I have to ask for clarification. But what I do want to say is what we're learning now, and I think that maybe Planning Board has heard about this too, with that Lumber Street / Alexander solar farm, the plan is to use a forestry law that allows a lot of tree cutting in land that the Conservation Commission said this is within the 100-foot buffer, and this is land that we agree you're not going to touch. Now there's a question of whether they can use this forestry law, whether that would supersede an agreement with the Concom or not. And that is something in Concom we asked for town council to help us understand. As far as clear cutting, if there's no wetlands, I think, but I don't know, I think even there, you can't just run into your yard and chop down every single tree. I think that there is some regulation for those things.
Across the street from me, the owners clear cut the yard, everything. They don't have any permits. They just clear cut the house, the property. And that is something that happens in Hopkinton all the time. It happened when we saw some development getting prepared because it dries out any wetland vegetation prior to looking at a development, and it is used on a regular basis, Ted. So this is unfortunate, but this is a strategy for development.
My guess is, and it's only a guess, that that's probably in violation, especially if they're doing it to dry out wetlands. And all it takes is someone to report them, and then suddenly the clear cutting has to stop, which is, I believe, what's happened on that Lumber Street / Alexander Road development. I think they've stopped chopping down trees because now there is discussion whether you're allowed to do this or not.
And John G, is there a way in zoning laws that we can specify that, solar can't be put in on land that has been clear cut in the last 5 years or something along those lines? That's what somebody suggested to me.
I mean, you can, but that may contravene Section 3 of Chapter 40A.
Okay.
And just to go back to the topic we were talking about before, as far as I know, there's no prohibition for cutting trees down on private property. If it's within a wetland, that's one thing. So drying out the wetland area, that could be an issue. But if you have 100 acres of upland, as far as I know, you don't need any local permits to cut all those trees down.
Right. Yeah, same thing. I know I've got some bad oaks in the back of my house. My wife has been wanting me to cut down for the last 4 years. And it's just like, I'll get to it. And I've got to take them all down. And it's gonna really change the back of my house. But it's either they're gonna get cut down or they're gonna fall down eventually. So anybody, if you own your land, you can take it. But again, unless it's in wetlands.
But John, you're not talking about clear cutting an entire lot. You're talking about.
No, but it's still the same thing. But it ends up being the same thing when you're really talking about it. It's your house, it's your land. Like even when you were just talking about the commercial property versus agricultural residential, whether it's owned by a corporation or it's owned by a person, it's still owned by somebody. And to somebody's point before, we're now taking away a right to do something without compensation. And so that's where we go. And I remember the first time, you're right, Rhea, you must have been on there about 5 years ago. I think was the first time we attacked this. And we went to a good town meeting and it didn't pass because all we were trying to do was put some restrictions. And people said, oh, no, you were going to encourage it. You're going to encourage it. And it failed. The following year, we came through and really explained that we're just trying to put some conditions so that, you know, a size condition with screening and everything else. And I remember we had to walk a very, very fine line to make sure we could get it through the state. Because at the same time, the state just said, look, if you don't put any conditions, they can put it anywhere and do anything. And so I just want to make sure that we walk that fine line so they don't end up throwing out everything. Because I remember doing stuff on the planning board before, putting restrictions on site plan reviews for people. And then they went to the state and the state just said, no, the state court. And they just said, no, everything that we did. And it really stuck. It really was not, it wasn't very good, because all the really good conditions that we put on, along with some of them that were a little fuzzy, all got thrown out. And then the developer was allowed to do anything they wanted.
Yeah, I know in Lake County, Illinois, where I did most of my work when I was there, a lot of the communities had a town forester who helped to manage what went on. If we were going to propose a development, we had to do a tree survey of every tree over 6 inches in diameter, surveyed, located, identified, and seems like there was a tree count where you had to balance. If you took out, you know, so many 6-inch trees or so many 12 or 18-inch trees, you had to plant so many 6 inches. So they've out there have gone to the point of managing the forestry area within the town. I'm assuming that doesn't happen. There's no means for that here.
For 6 years on the Board of Selectmen, I was trying to just get a tree warden back again. And we almost got there. Then COVID hit and they said, oh, we don't have the money now.
Yeah.
So we can't even get a tree warden and a truck to go down and you know, trim the dead branches off before they fall down and knock everybody's electricity. Oh yeah, oh well, we'll get it eventually.
But still, going back to, you know, clear cutting your yard or your 5-acre parcel of land behind your house in advance of a potential commercial solar farm, it seems like if that's a commercial kind of a use in a residential zone, and that affects the other residences directly. And that's really a concern, I think, across the board. I think that's really the conversation that's been going on in town over this.
I agree with you, Rhea. I think there's two things to keep in mind. We are hoping to avoid destruction of trees and green spaces, and we're hoping to avoid serious detrimental impact to residential neighborhoods. So if a person doesn't have any wetlands, they can chop down all their trees. Okay, I guess that's allowed, but that doesn't mean they automatically are approved to put in solar panels, which would have a detrimental effect in the neighborhood. Right. And if there is a message that says, listen, you chop down your trees, again, if John's right, and I assume he's right, he knows much more about this than I, knock yourself out, pay the money you want. It doesn't mean you're getting approved for a solar farm, because we have two central criteria we're dealing with: impact on nature and impact on residential neighborhoods. And as long as I'm unmuted, I know that the solar overlay would take away some personal property rights. I get that. All zoning tells individuals what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do with their personal property. All of us are having our property rights impinged by zoning. Now, this would be a new one. I get that. But you know what? So would saying we're not allowed to have a car wash in downtown. That would mean every one of those downtown businesses, every landowner has now lost that opportunity. And yet nobody is saying, oh my gosh, we're not compensating them for that loss of possibility. All zoning is going to take away property rights. That's the nature of what it is. It can't be avoided. The question is, are we planning for what is best for the town? I think that's a planning board's job. Plan what is in the best interest of the town. Some of that is individual residents of the town, and a healthy part of that is the best interest of everybody in town. So I'm not terrifically swayed by the you're stepping on my personal freedom with this. That's what all zoning does. That's the nature of the beast.
Thank you. Okay, so it's 8:21 or 24 now. I think we've done a good job of getting things on the table about solar overlay.
Yeah, we definitely beat it up a little bit for
Yeah.
tonight.
But this is going to be one of our major agenda items for the next several
You know,
meetings.
Through the chair, Mary Jo, maybe that's what we should probably do to try and help us out at town meeting. You know, maybe, let's have like one whole meeting where we invite people. We try and give everybody 3 minutes or something, just sort of like, let's, where we do almost like a mini town or pre-town meeting on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something, or hearing, so that we can get some of this stuff out and see where people stand, so that we can, bring it down to just, maybe an hour or two at town meeting, as opposed to, we'll eat the 2 hours here or something, so that we can get it through in 20 minutes there.
You're very optimistic about people's
Okay.
willingness not to speak in
Hey,
both places.
I've been, it's funny. I'll go right back to the one that we thought was me a slam dunk, adding the word residential to the agricultural district,
Yeah.
so people can get their refinancing done quicker, and that didn't get through town meeting. Oh my God.
So
Yeah.
through the chair.
Yes.
I like John's idea, but I would just add one more step to it. We've been talking about a lot about conservation, not cutting trees and all that. It's still not clear to me what the economic benefits for the town are. So if we have to say, here is the price we pay for this level of economic benefit, let's do that. Maybe there is a connect the dots here that many people may be missing. I'm certainly missing, because if this is all about green energy, sometimes I feel we are essentially cutting trees, which are a carbon sink. We need more trees to absorb carbon dioxide, yet we're cutting them and producing green energy. So what is the price there? What is the cost benefit analysis here? What is the math here?
You mean
maybe
the
that's been
generation of
discussed.
solar versus the carbon sink of trees? Is that what you're saying?
That's one thing. And then straight out, what is the economic benefit to the town in terms of incremental taxes and all that stuff? So I'm just saying, whenever there is a hearing that, I like what John C proposed. If we could even bring someone who can actually explain to us what the economic benefits are, and then in contrast, how do you talk about the environmental impact in terms of the carbon sink gone? If you cut 5,000 trees, you've essentially lost that much, which can absorb carbon dioxide.
Okay.
The only thing I'd throw on top of that, Sundar, is other environmental impacts. Like, for example, trees create oxygen, solar panels don't. But also what it does to water runoff, what it does to erosion when we take out all the tree root systems.
Right.
The environmental impacts, I think, have been simplified to remove carbon versus not create carbon, because we're using renewable energy. And I think it leaves other environmental questions out.
Okay. Fair point. Yep.
There's one last thing I wanted to make you guys aware of, if you're not already. I've seen the state law regarding solar and their attempt to to disincentivize development in green areas. So they have passed, I believe it's already passed. They have passed something within the state of Massachusetts that does disincentivize, but once it comes to us for a special permit, it's already, the developers have already factored in the cost differences. I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know exactly what it is. But if any of you are interested in reading that, I'll send it along. And just so you know that it exists, but we shouldn't expect anything more in in the near future from the state in terms of green area development versus brown.
Could you send that to all of us, please, Mary?
Sure thing, I will.
I had one question, I guess, for clarification regarding the solar. You say you've got people that have been thinking, well, maybe I'll develop a solar farm on my property. If they're not zoned commercial or in industrial, they don't by right I haven't really looked at the requirements for solar, but they would have to go through a rezoning to even consider that. Certainly, we're not allowing.
Unfortunately not. Not in
Okay, so
Massachusetts, yeah.
So right now you could say I have 6 acres around my house. I'd like to mow down all the trees and put up solar.
That
Yep.
is precisely the problem we're
That's
dealing
the
with.
problem, Curtis.
Okay, well, I'm moving. I'll see y'all later.
Yeah. So this doesn't take into consideration that you could have a full solar farm over a parking lot, or you could have a full solar farm on the rooftop of a large industrial building. I mean, I think that the focus and the concern is literally, taking natural habitat, clear cutting it, putting these solar panels there and calling it green. And that's the nut of the matter. If people are really looking to make money on that and they've got a green space, they really should go buy a shopping center right now and try to do it there. It's a lot cheaper.
There's just one argument that somebody brought up during one of the public hearings, which maybe we should keep in our consideration, that if it's a private owner, that person was saying, if I would rather give it to a commercial solar development than more new residence development because it adds a strain to the school. That was their argument. So that was brought up, which it didn't make sense, but that was used as a defense. So if you take away that option from me, then I can't do that. So just wanted to bring that up, that was also brought up.
Well,
I heard that too, and I don't know for sure if what I'm going to say next is true. But I think if you had land that could be sold to a residential developer, you'd make a lot more money doing that.
That's what I would think.
Solar farms are going into places where subdivisions can't go. So the only thing remaining is a solar farm. So I think it's a bit of a hollow argument from the other side.
Yeah, if you had a piece of property it was mostly ledge and wouldn't be able to support septic system, solar farm would be a perfect use for it. But right now it's probably forested because nobody's found a use for it yet. I can see where the problems will arise and figuring out how to address it.
Yeah.
Just a tongue-in-cheek remark from me. Before COVID, we were all speculating what to do with the South Street EMC properties and all that stuff, parking lots, buildings. Maybe they should put up a solar farm there. I think Ria was suggesting that.
Yes.
Well, that property is very, very valuable, Sundar. And once Dell decides to do something, then we'll all be in wonder what they're going to do. But they are in charge of their land.
That's true.
And even when they get offers from bona fide buyers and they don't respond to the offers, they're still in charge of their property. It's a conundrum. We don't know what they're doing. And Michael Dell has a lot of property around the country. He does the same thing.
They all want to go carbon neutral, Ria. Like Microsoft, Dell, everyone wants to go zero emissions and carbon neutral. What better way than to add up, build more solar farms?
Put a solar farm on top of the building, but I understand that these buildings are functionally obsolete and that to retrofit them is extremely expensive, which reduces the value to them in terms of like a sale, because it becomes more of like a land sale than a building sale. And so as a result of that, it's a conundrum for them because they see the value of the property has diminished, but it's a conundrum for us because we don't see anything active on the site. You see, but I'm sure that this is going to be one of the conversations we will have this session on Zach again, because land is not, it's finite. So what we do with the land, we need to make sure that it is the best use for the land for the long term, just like the fathers of this town have done previously, and how we ended up attracting Michael Dell to this property and to this town. Because if we just think of putting anything up, it's not going to be the long-term solution.
Amen. We've been preaching the same story for years, Rhea.
We're a tag team, Ted.
But only new thing that I've realized with COVID is that office building spaces are not going to be utilized for, like, people are doing more remote and work from home. So
Right.
that model is changing, but other than that,
But manufacturing's come in. Lycan was a great win for us.
Very true.
With more companies like Lycan coming in, it'll attract, more users. But I'm not going to take up any more of our time here because Mary's got another agenda item.
I do. You're absolutely right. So we will continue the solar discussion, and I think we should try to get some public comment, but I don't think I'm going to be optimistic about that reducing the public comment that's going to take place at town meeting. But yes, we'll discuss that. So this is the work program spreadsheet, which has taken the place of any action item lists and things like that I've done. This is useful to me because it's all in one place. What I do is I say
Katie, you're not sharing anything. I don't think you're sharing anything.
I'm not?
no. I think you shared the application, and is that a Word document?
Oh, new share. Okay, yep. Now I have to do new share. Okay, here we go. Sorry. I just thought it would show my desktop no matter what.
There you go.
Yes. Now we
Okay,
see
you
it.
see it now?
Yep.
Okay. So you guys received this. So it is a long table, a long document, but that's because at the very end, I keep all the things that we've kind of tabled or put aside or that have already gone through town meeting. And we know that way, when we have new membership coming in and so on, we can always go back and we can refer to things and we don't have to search for it. Eventually, I'm sure it'll become ungainly, but for now it's working, I think. And I keep the date on which certain things were discussed, even if we didn't discuss it at length, but it's at least in there. And that way you can refer to the minutes or the video of the meeting if all else fails. Not that, you really want to watch these YouTube videos in too much for your evening's entertainment. Okay, so at the top of this were all of the 2020 ATM articles that got deferred. And then the next section are ongoing discussions. So fire safety, residential fire sprinklers. We had discussed possibly recommending to planning board that certain encouraging statements can be made for fire sprinkler developments. And we could put that in the subdivision regulations. We thought that was the most appropriate place for it. I think that was John's suggestion. The affordability. So that's really, we're dealing with that in several different ways. The accessory family dwelling unit was the one we tackled this last year. And conversions of residential property and duplex zoning articles are some additional ones we can talk about. And that's simply to make it easier in some ways to make these into affordable units, but still addressing the concerns of the town, like not necessarily making it an obvious all rental area. That's a sort of thing. So smart zoning in that way. Airbnbs we discussed last year. Subdivision lighting, street lights, wayfinding lights. Right now, they're I believe planning board typically waives any lighting in subdivisions, but there's been some discussion about smaller wayfinding lights in subdivisions, just for a safety standpoint. Trash pickup for condominiums, that's been a introduction for a citizens petition that we examined this last year and decided not to recommend from the ZAC or planning board. Stone walls, we had discussed right near the last few meetings that we had in the spring. And this was going to be more of potentially a guideline in terms of rebuilding stone walls. And we can revisit that because it's not going to be a town meeting vote. It's going to be more of a guideline written for the planning board to be able to hand out when people are getting a waiver to demolish a portion of a stone wall for a driveway or something like that, or they need to rebuild it after it has been damaged. Streamlining the permitting process, we haven't discussed for a while, but it's it's on our list of things to consider. We had discussed whether or not we want to add car washes to industrial A district by right or by special permit. There's been some discussion of parking requirements and revising those. Not the downtown parking as much as the just in general for warehouses, for manufacturing. So do it by, the suggestion was to do it based on use rather than just based on zone, I think. Form-based zoning is something that John can give us some training about, and then we can see if and where it can fit in with our zoning for the future. So the always popular one, dark sky lighting standards. I've been avoiding this. I don't know about the rest of you, but it's something that if anybody is feeling the desire to go into a lot of research on this, we can start to take it up.
Go look at Branford, Connecticut.
Okay.
Did a lot of work there. I think that's where the dark sky thing was initiated.
I've read some, this is from several years ago in the ZAC, we were passing around some articles from various other towns, communities. There was one that was, the lighting standards was something like 50 pages long just for that lighting. It was pretty amazing. Okay, this looks like a duplicate of, oh no, it's actually, this is my own pet peeve of trying to think about ways we could consolidate and make it all like more, in my mind, organized. But I think it's a pipe dream. I think it's because these are all separate zoning articles, and it would never get through town meeting to simplify and consolidate it into one single zoning article. So I think that's a pipe dream of mine. And then this private open space and explore ways to protect is really being handled by the growth study committee at the moment. So it was kind of on a back burner for us. There was discussion about retail store square footage, the maximum in industrial A and industrial B districts, as you may recall. So we need to do a little bit more research on this in terms of size and in terms of, is there a demand for this, and would it really help attract businesses or not? Mobile vendors, this was hopefully going to be taken up by the select board, but John C., I don't know if that's ever going to happen. So
Well, I'm not there anymore, so.
I know. I know. So it never was taken up
Yeah.
previous, but this is more of
No,
a
that-
general bylaw than a zoning bylaw, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, so I don't know that it's really within our purview.
yeah. One of the previous ones was also a general that came up, and that was what when you said the planning board wanted to stay away from it, but I was just being quiet.
Yeah, okay. Okay, we've discussed this, all different ways to encourage development on South Street. Biotechnology, transfer of development rights types of things, as well as we talked about the commuter buses from the commuter rail and so on. And so I'd like to see if there's any of those that that there's a way to encourage those to communicate
Actually,
with Metro West Regional Transit and so on. Go ahead.
Mary, to the chair, transfer of development rights. That's selling your right to develop it. So that would actually be something that would probably be detrimental to the value of a property.
Ria, was that something that you had brought up at one point? Because I thought that was reverse.
Transfer of development rights? No.
Yeah. Okay. I don't remember where it came from.
Yeah, well, no, the people were talking about, no, that's something we were talking about for large tracts of land to keep people.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
so so pull that out of the, pull that out
That
of.
belongs up here.
Yeah, exactly. Pull that out.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah. And
Okay.
here we are trying to encourage it. It's sort of like, we're going to encourage it by telling you can't do stuff there.
Right. Okay, and then another low priority one was, just creating tables of the zoning to make it, just more easily accessible to people who might be looking in town for development opportunities. And all the things that are shaded down here are things that we have taken action on one way or another. Either it's gone to town meeting or we decided not to take action on it because of one reason or another. Okay. The other one new thing that has come to me recently is a tree protection bylaw, and just I think John G, you sent me an example from a different community. Is that right? And I can share that with everybody, but I didn't want to put it on the agenda today because I knew we would have enough to talk about. But there may be some things to the dovetail with the solar. So we can look at that and see if there's anything that makes sense to try to work on at the same time as the solar. Okay? Okay. Well, that's where we stand.
Now we just need another meeting date.
Yes, we do. Let's try to set the next couple of meetings. Okay, so planning board is next week. October 5th, is there any conflicting meeting, John?
There is nothing on the calendar for October 5th.
Wow. Does that work for everybody?
Yes, works.
Okay.
Opening day of deer season, so it has to be after dark, so.
Madam Chair, I think I was frozen out of my internet for the last 10 seconds. Did some
Okay.
decision get made?
We all voted on, and you have been assigned the following.
Thank you for volunteering.
And I've been voted out. No, I've been voted off the island, John.
No.
Yeah.
No. You got all the jobs.
Monday, October 5th will be our next meeting, 7 p.m. And Columbus Day is October 12th. So the planning board is on October 19th. Is October 26th the possibility, John G?
1 second. Just setting up the 5th.
Are we gonna have one of those public hearings where people come to gripe and then we say we can't do anything about it?
Undoubtedly. Yes, I don't think we should do that one in 2 weeks, but we should push for it on the 26th if the 26th is a possible meeting time.
It is open.
Okay, so the 26th of October, and we'll tentatively push for,
Did we say, sorry about that. Did we say 26th? I
Yeah.
lost the connection again.
yes, 26th. You're as bad as me.
Okay, thank you.
2022.
Worse, I think.
And then Mary, maybe we should look for one of them in November to give people enough time to talk about the solar one. You know, just so it's not, just so that we're not all doing it ourselves and trying to figure out what the pros and cons from each person might be.
Okay. So you don't think October 26th is a good date for it?
No,
or-
the 26th, we'll do that for the usual. I mean,
Okay.
when people come forward, you know, they'll talk about the trash pickup and we'll have to tell them that's not us, that's Board of Selectmen. They'll talk about, you know, some other things that we can't do anything about. You know, but there might be some that we can attack. And, you know, that's where we have gotten some great ideas, you know, before. But even though we're trying not to put anything on this year's, but it's something we could work out and, you know, because there are special town meetings now and then too.
That is true.
So we can
So,
always do that.
The next likely day would be November 9th. And again, depends on if there's any other meetings conflicting.
There's not.
No meetings conflicting. Okay, so Zach, and then that would be the potential day for public hearing directly on solar. Okay,
Okay,
so that gives us several meetings in which to come up with some additional proposals or options to do with the solar. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah,
All right.
and then it gives us something to talk about because then we start getting into Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we don't get as many meetings in. We'll probably only get one in.
Yeah, we probably
know,
won't.
But like we'll probably do something like December 9th, and then that's it, and then January 6th,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and then there's usually the January February scramble, trying to get 3 or 4 of them in.
Yes.
But we don't have, since we're not doing anything crazy for this year's town meeting. I think we might be able to really get into some of these things quite deeply.
Good, good. Okay,
So can
So
I just
I will-
you? We said October 5th,
Mhm.
October 26th,
November
November
9th.
9th.
Mhm.
You went back on mute, Ted.
yeah, and November 9th, all at 7 p.m.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
All right.
26th is the open meeting, and the November 9th is the solar discussion.
okay.
Yeah, but I don't need to put that on the family calendar, so.
No, you
Oh,
don't. Everything goes on the family calendar here.
Same here.
mine's automatic.
Okay. So do we have to vote for adjourning? I can't remember.
Yeah, a
Okay,
motion to
okay.
adjourn.
All right. I'd like a motion to adjourn.
I second
So
that.
moved.
I'll give it to you, and I seconded.
Thank you. All right. Mary, yes. Ted,
John,
John, go ahead.
Yes.
John,
yes.
Ria,
Yes.
Sundar,
Sundar, yes.
Madhu,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Ron.
Yes.
I think that's it. We are adjourned.
Good
Thank you,
night.
Bob.
Hi, everybody. Good seeing everybody again.
Night,
Have a great
everybody.
week.
Good night.
Thank you.